my original format, original office, original studio. We're talking again about the United States. I've just put another video out there in YouTube, and you see there was a lot of halchal, as I said last week, about maybe there is some reduction in chill between the United States and China. Maybe it's getting better, and Blinken was on his way. But like they said, the balloon literally got pricked. The balloon literally got pricked. All the good feeling went away in a whiff. US-China's, like I said, US-China ties deflate further over spy balloon fracas. Beijing expressing regret, says it's a civilian airship used for research that blew off course. US Secretary of State postpones scheduled visit to China. This suggests, if anything, that the relationship is on thin ice. Blinken delays China trip as balloon casts shadow. And like I told you, the United States has established its primacy in Europe. What Russia and Putin had hoped for, the break between the United States and Europe, kind of worked in reverse as soon as Ukraine happened. So theoretically, and in terms of finances and technology, Europe can go out on its own. But when you see what happened, but to take on Russia, it just seems Europe needs the backing of the United States. So the United States always had to take the first take, whether it was with the Bradleys, whether it was the Abraham tanks, whether it was with the missile defense system. Only once they committed, rest of Europe did. And it's coming back in Asian Pac too, right? Eye on China, Philippines gives US greater access to its base. Now, Philippines is a key link between now India and the United States. I don't know how many of you know, we've supplied BrahMos to Philippines. We are building a huge amount of cyber security with the Philippines and satellite connectivity. And what's important is, even though the BrahMos we gave them was without the guidance system, but hey, still, this is a linchpin that we need to work on. The other one is to help the United States with Indonesia. The United States wants Indonesia, but Indonesia so far seems to be, kind of aligning a little bit towards China. But India needs to come in there, right? India-China troops clash in Tawang. So India always has to be out there. Day ahead of this was some months back, right? But because of that, day ahead of IAF exercises, army drill in eastern sector. Eye on China and Pak, India kicks off mega naval combat exercise in IOR. That's the important part. But when you're doing this, right, you think about this. The unloved triangle is what you really need to worry about, right? And this is a really nice piece written by C. Raja Mohan. He says, the unloved triangle. India's discomfort in the messy ménage à trois with Russia and China will only grow. He says, Sino-Russian alliance has India in a terrible predicament. China can ramp up at will the military pressure on the disputed border with India. Delhi depends on Russian military supplies to cope with PLA challenge, and Moscow is now a junior partner to Beijing. This is certainly not a nice place for Delhi to be in. To make matters worse, the dependence on Russian arms has severely constrained India's position on Ukraine and cast a shadow over Delhi's engagement with Europe and the United States. Not only India's continuous buying of oil from Russia, but also its waffling on China is beginning to is just ensuring that we're not able to utilize the opportunities available to us to the largest extent. However, the next big thing after the nuclear deal did happen, and we talk about it right after this. 3 cheers. So what's the next big thing, right? This is Dowell's visit and go out there meeting a lot of people, including Blinken. This is the ICET. With ICET, India and US open the tech gates. He says, while driven by mutual strategic convergence, ICET's net beneficiary is India, but it is not a deal. It's a process that creates opportunities. Both knew they were inaugurating a new chapter in the Indian-US strategic military, commercial, scientific and technological partnership, and they were both men in a hurry. The result is the ambitious initiative on critical and emerging technologies. 4 features of ICET stand out. 1, it is based on deep strategic logic. For India, a tech partnership with the world's preeminent economic tech innovation, academic and scientific power can open many doors. It can help build India's military resilience, boost indigenous production, and allow the strategic ecosystem to access cutting-edge dual-use technologies. Folks, without them, we are toast. Let me just tell you. Two, while mutual interests have driven ICET, it would be intellectually honest to acknowledge that India is a net beneficiary of the process. So let's not get into, oh, they need us. Okay, let's just away from that, right? In what aligns with the Indian semiconductor mission's aim, the US says it will support the development of a semiconductor design, manufacture and fabrication ecosystem in India. And let me say that without the United States, this whole process of creating semiconductors in India is a non-starter. If General Electric unprecedented application to produce jet engines in India, which the White House has promised to expeditiously review, goes through, it can possibly galvanize other elements of the American military industrial complex to follow suit. And remember these engines, folks, India has no engines. China has done it all. They've got these useless old age Russian jet engines. And India has absolutely not even been able to get off the block as far as that is concerned, right? Three, the private sector is critical player if ICET is to succeed. Indeed, a lot of this American and Indian signaling is to the commercial sectors in both countries that both national security establishments want the countries to work together. But as Manjari Chatterjee Miller writes, sort out granular issues to bolster India in US ties. Is China another hugely pressing challenge for the US is also an important factor in the US-India bilateral ties. Consequently, the US and India share an interest in New Delhi strengthening its deterrence capacity towards Beijing on the border and in the Indian Ocean. Use that, right? Washington is hugely optimistic about the relationship and sees India as one of the most valuable partners for several decades. Experts have been talking about the US-India relationship deepening without having much concrete evidence to show this to be the case. However, the tide seems to be finally turning and the ICET is it, folks. Amid China threat, US and India plan to take strategic scientific ties to next level. The date, India-US announced defense industrial roadmap at ICET. ICET, the next big thing in India-US strategic relations is here. And hallelujah, and about time. Prashanja. Puzzled ever since the 2008 nuclear deal, what's the next big thing in the India-US relationship? ICET is arguably the next big thing for the political, strategic, commercial, and scientific alignment it represents between the two countries. Let's use it now, folks. Strategic signal and the visit. And this is why the composition of the teams on both sides, as well as the issue under discussion, are significant, loaded teams on both sides. But the big story is how Washington and Delhi are taking the next leap. It will change the collective future. Remember that, collective future. India, US, NSA discuss ways to jointly push critical tech. US may let GE make jet engines in India, and that is the biggest game changer ever. GE 414 engines set to be manufactured in India. India, US agree to deepen tech and defense ties. And remember this, folks. I thought the next big thing actually is leasing the aircraft carrier or leasing a nuclear submarine from the United States. But ICET also out there, folks. 3 cheers. But while this ICET and all our defense coming together and all these agreements are going at fast pace, we've got to worry about our democratic credentials because that could cause a little bit of a storm, that kind of slows down the process. US stress on importance of free press and ban on BBC series. They got to get there, right? We got to be confident. Forget about the BBC series and all that banning, right? Record a year for Apple India iPhone shipments grow 11%. Wow. And then you have this Quad meet to boost cyber security in Indo-Pacific. And the Quad is one of our biggest bulwarks that we have. And we've got to continue to move that. India and US unveil roadmap for defense tech ties. A critical part of this strategic commitment. Government of India's statement said the ICET aimed to position the two countries as trusted technology partners by building technology value chains and support the co-development and co-production of items. This is important, but you've got to improve the environment in India. Defense partnership gets a boost. GE Engines is one of them. The semiconductor push, without their assistance, we aren't getting any of our PLIs off the board. AI, quantum, and telecom, again extremely critical. And then United and Australia, obviously, right? India is set to invest in Australian mineral sales. In what? And this is what you got to think about. India and the new Eurasia, again by C. Raja Mohan. Japan is showing the security of Europe, Indo-Pacific is linked. Delhi must seize the possibilities, right? He says for India, the rise of Eurasia is making it harder to ride on two boats at the same time. Until now, India could easily hunt with the maritime coalition, the Quad, in the Indo-Pacific and run at the same time with the continental coalition led by Russia and China. This was possible so long as the maritime and continental powers is not at each other's throat. But the conflict between the US, Europe and Japan on the one hand and China and Russia on the other is now acute and shows no sign of immediate amelioration. And get ready, India. Times are coming. China's Quinn, Russia's Lavrov set to attend SCO meet in India. Park's Bilawal yet to take a call. So here's a problem, right? I'm not even sure why we have these guys to just blabble away and then some talking points and then we end up lowering our guard, right? US and Germany agree to send tanks to Ukraine. Kyiv hails likely turning point. This could be very critical. A different Tokyo, Berlin confronts the world today. And this is important for India, as written by Prashant Jha. Thanks to China and Russia, both Japan and Germany have changed their strategic political orientation. And while it is a work in progress, the historical significance of this move is hard to miss. And for India, open your eyes. Both remain under the American security umbrella, but Japan is now an active agent in shaping the US security worldview. For both, India is important, though the Tokyo-Delhi relationship is, of course, of qualitatively superior nature. 80 years ago, Washington, D.C., Moscow, and Beijing defeated Berlin and Tokyo. Today, Berlin and Tokyo, with D.C. in the lead, are emerging from the shadows to fight Moscow and Beijing. History has come a full circle. Indo-Pacific veteran. This is Vincenzo Di Luca. He's the ambassador, Italian ambassador to India. He says, in line with EU plan, Italy can play a strategic and economic role in the region. He says the balance that will be struck in the Indo-Pacific will have a decisive influence on global dynamics. Italy, together with its EU partners and within the framework of the common European strategy, is clear on the need for playing its part. And now, Italy is also part of this fighter jet project between Japan, Italy, and the United Kingdom. India needs to be part of that, folks. Fallout of technology is incredible. Is this really India's moment in the world after seeing what happened, how we reacted to the BBC commentary and what's happened with Adani? Maybe not yet, okay? But Adam Tooze writes, but technology and economic leadership matter little if they are not embedded in a broader social settlement that allows everyone, women and men, minorities and majorities, long-time residents and migrants, partitions of different parties and adherents of different cultures, norms to coexist and flourish, if not in close or intimate proximity, then at least as members of a single political community. It is a lesson that is coming home too hard for America. It surely applies to India too. So beware, folks. Hard power just makes no sense, and we are going to get nowhere without the soft power. And Pathan is an eye-opener for all our domestic politics, right-wing loonies who tend to destroy our foreign policy. 3 cheers and Jai Hind. Let's grab this moment. We were not able to take the sign off on the nuclear deal far because of amazingly the BJP and Mr. Modi at that time, when he completely they almost scanned the deal and added shackles by the requirement for insurance. Let's hope this one goes through the way it needs to, because India's future for sure depends on it. 3 cheers.